I don't know, you know what he said when he came up? He said, I used to pay hundreds of dollars to go to the bands and the dances, and you get to come here free. You get this free.
Oh, yes.
All of you watching by streaming, you get it free. All over the world, the marvelous happenings here. I don't know why everyone doesn't want it. Why do I have to get up here and beg you to become what you feel right now? If you could just become what you feel right now, then I don't know what it's going to take. What's with you that you would quench the spirit and not allow yourself to become what you feel?
Yes.
This is what everybody tries to imitate. This is what everybody tries to. They try to conjure this up, and so then they have to get half drunk to even know what the word conjure means. When it's right here. It's right here in the presence of God.
Yes.
In the presence of God, there is freedom. He that the Son has set free is free indeed. That there's freedom and freedom and freedom. And I've been in it all of my life, but it never ceases to amaze me when one of these services come that we begin to weave our way through it, and we are expecting just the explosion of the Spirit any moment.
Hallelujah.
And I want to encourage you to do what you feel like doing. Now, what is that term that I talked about last Sunday?
Flash mob.
And is that an ugly word? Flash mob. They took President Bush, elder President Bush, to Texas A&M, and they rolled him in his wheelchair, and just one man just walked out, and it looked like we were doing a little to the left and a little to the right and a jump. But he just started moving. Now, is this the way it happens? He just started moving, and then all of a sudden somebody joined him and they started moving. And it wasn't anything bad. It was just, they were just moving. And then all of a sudden there was 10, 15, 20. And all of a sudden there was over 100 doing the same thing. It looked like what we do at our Valentine party. And I don't know why that can't spontaneously happen in the Spirit.
Oh, yes.
When all of a sudden we are at this place like we are right now. And I'm not encouraging you to do this. I'm just saying this is what they do out there as they just start moving. And then another one starts moving. And I don't know why that can't happen. Because on the day of Pentecost, when the church was born, it was people who had been there for 10 days. And suddenly in the second chapter of Acts, there was a fire that sat upon each of them. They had their own individual fireplace. And then they began speaking with tongues. And then they started moving. And he got everybody drunk except Peter, because somebody had to keep order. And he would say, careful there, don't step on Mary. No step, careful. They started moving until the whole town was moving. And it gathered like there were 1 million Jews that had come for the Feast of Pentecost from all over the dispersion. And before you know it, everybody was moving. What meaneth this? Why am I moving? These people have to be drunk. You see, when you come to God, it's a sobering event, but you stay drunk thereafter.
Yeah.
And they just go, why am I moving? I don't know. We're moving because they're moving. Why can't we all move? Everybody move. Why can't everybody clap their hands? Why can't everybody raise their hands? Why can't everybody dance like Jerry Hewlin? Why can't everybody get loose like Chris Byrne? Why can't everybody act like the choir? I love the enthusiasm of the choir. I love the enthusiasm. I love their laugh and their jumping. And when they begin to move, it seems like we want to move. We want to move. Why do we have to talk you into that? Why can't you just do that? Because that's what you were born to do. You were born to do that. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, right now, touch individuals. Touch individual people. Let them know they can become what they are feeling right now. They can become. I thought this morning when I was about to leave the house, I said, now I've got to go again and talk people into become what they're really wanting to be. And it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, this preaching business. You're trying to talk people into what their soul and their heart is looking for. And then I said, I've got to go because I got calls last night about this young man that was trying to commit suicide, and Randy O and all the people working with this situation. And why would a young man want to take his life when he's never even known what life is all about? This is what life is all about. And there was a time a few months ago or a year ago when I began to say, I'm your father, and I have come to awake the greatness in you. Remember that? And I began to say that wherever I went. Hello, I'm your father, and I've come to awake the greatness in you. Because within you, there are so many great things. And people have to learn that the greatest value that you will ever find is mining in your own gold mine. You can travel, you can search, but all the time it is right here. And if I could just talk you into that, responding to that. One of the great incidents of the Easter story was Jesus riding into Jerusalem a week before, which is next Sunday in our celebration. And that's also the first Sunday of our Alive 13 production, next Sunday. That's how quickly time is flying. But him riding into Jerusalem. And it's so amazing how that he acquired this donkey to ride on. He said, you go to a certain place and you start untying the donkey, and this is what you tell the people who owns the donkey. The Lord hath need of him. I love that statement. The Lord hath need of him. Now, God is confident that he could make you do anything he wanted to make you do. And I've often stated he could move one little finger, and everybody in Austin, Texas, and all the visitors included, would be on their knees and on their face in one split second. God is confident that if he wanted to make you do something, he could do that. He's also confident of the fact that you are a God-conscious person, and if he overwhelmed you with the feeling that God really needs this, that you would do it. You would do it. But why can't you just see the need? Why don't you just start moving? Just see the need. He said, the Lord hath need of him. Now that's the thoughts of my soul, is that how can I convince people that the Lord needs what they have in the gold mine of their soul? Did you know that there's a Filipino girl that comes to our church, and her name is Maylene, and she married Junior Salazar. We did not know the great potential of Maylene, which reminds you, if you got a car you're not driving, we need it. The Lord had need of your car. because Junior and Maylene don't have but one car, and they live out by Formula One track, and they work at the airport. But she has to come here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday because we have discovered in Maylene something so very, very special. And we lost Christy, and Christy was the extension of my whatever I have, and she could put what I think into creative presentation. So we had Alex for a while, and then we needed somebody. Now this, I'm trying to impress upon you what is within you, and you may not even know it, and then we may not even know it that it is within you. So what I'm trying to do is to get you to move. Just start moving. You can sleep when you get home. Don't sleep now. Just come on. This is an electrifying moment just to get you to move to the rhythm that you're hearing within. Move to the rhythm. Now, we would not have known that Maylene could interpret our ideas into creative art. We would not have known that if she hadn't have come forward. This is how Claudia is. We didn't know how all these people, Amanda with the widows, and Liz with the bus routes, and people that's in charge of with the kids with the bake sales, and all the things that go on in the Sunday school. And then if you're ever taught in a learning center, let us know. Do you have credentials and credibility and certification to work in a charter school? Let us know. If you would just move, I'm such a big nothing in a sea of a lot of somethings. That's not true. That's such a big place. That's such, I'll sit way over here. No, move. Come on, just start moving. They won't even know I'm there. We will if you'll shout. Do we know Chris Bynes is here? If you will shout loud enough, we will know you're here. Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Shut up. No. Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Shut up. No. Jesus. They said, Lord, you better take care of this situation or he's not going to shut up. What do you want? I want to see. I want to see. I want to see. Get up, go see. And he saw. Jesus, if you would just do that, if you would become so verbal and moving and moving and moving. Move with us. What can you do? What can you do? Who are you? Revelation 18 and 19 said, this nation had gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silks, perfume wood, brass, iron, marble. Oil, gas, great water supplies, spices, perfume, incense, wine, olive oil, sulfur, the biggest deposits of sulfur in the world, flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses. That's in the Bible. Revelation 18 and 19. And you know what this is doing? This is describing the country of Iraq. These are the natural resources of Iraq. Within that crazy mixed up culture, there lies beneath them $76 trillion in assets, and that was discovered in 2011. That's not counting what they have extracted since 2011. If we can just talk these crazy people to leave your dictator mindset, if you don't agree with me, I will kill you. don't do that anymore. Because you Kurds, you Shiites, you Sunnis, if you could just get it together, you are projected to be the richest nation in the world if you'll just learn to move. Just learn to move. Get rid of all the leaders that's got the Saddam Hussein mindset. Get out of the dead churches that Wanda was talking about today. Get out of those dead churches. Well, my mama was that and my daddy was that. That ain't talking about your mama and your daddy. I'm talking about you moving to the great potential of your value. Iraq. Same thing with Vietnam. Their agriculture's coming back. Their land was raped by the war, and now it's coming back. There's only 4% unemployment in the country of Vietnam. They are exporting all types of valuable things, but most of all, they found the rich oil fields around the Gulf of Tonkin. And this country, this hated country, this abused country, this country that was used as a political football for the United States government, this country is rising from the ashes to fly like a mighty eagle. And it's happening while people are encouraging them. Do you understand your value? And that's what I feel in this service today. And within the next few minutes, I want to just impress this. Do you understand your value? Well, I had a child out of wedlock. Well, maybe that child is Solomon. Would you quit griping about it and just bring your Solomon to church and let's turn him into the wisest man that ever lived? Or maybe your child is Mary Magdalene. Or maybe you are Mary Magdalene and you had 7 devils. But out of you came great deliverance. And within you came the ability to be the last at Calvary and the first at the resurrection. Do you understand your value? Let me just impress upon you. You are so valuable. How would we have known of Maylene if Charlie hadn't discovered it and Courage hadn't discovered it? And how would we know about all these people that have these abilities of technical skills? I pray every day, God, give me Google brains. I don't want them. Just send me somebody with Google brains. Just send me somebody with Google brains. People that every time I see Google and they change that blue and that red and that something else into something so creative, my heart leaps within me. Lord, send me somebody with a Google brain. And Google's moving more and more into Austin. Did you see the headlines yesterday that Austin, Texas, and this area, this metroplex, is the fastest growing in America? Did you see that? Did you see that? Do you see what value is in all the land around us? What extreme value. Do you see Mueller? And we're the only church in Mueller. Do you understand how many we should be running? If we could just get you to realize your value, we could do it. Put a door hanger on every door in Mueller. It's against the rules. Say, oops, we're sorry. There's something so ominous going on right now. It's kind of like the old country song. In a way, I'm glad it's over. In another way, it turns me inside out. When I see all these things happening, I understand how close we are to our final ascent. There is a term that I want you to get used to. It's called Global Currency Reset, or GCR. And Global Currency Reset is going to affect the currency of 168 countries. It's like refresh, reset. It's going to start with 15, including Iraq, Vietnam, and Canada. Global currency reset. Say it with me, please. Global currency reset. And then there is the International Monetary Fund. This is IMF, International Monetary Fund. This controls the wealth and the distribution of the wealth. This is run by a woman. She is 57 years old. You got to look this up. She's 57 years old, and she is the head of the International Monetary Fund. They control the wealth and the distribution of the world. Basel III. I don't know all about it. I'm just reporting, you judge. Look it up, study it. Global Currency Reset, or GCR, International Monetary Fund, IMF, Basel III. Basel III tells every country, you must have enough assets to back up your currency value. If not, your country's currency will be devalued. They just warned Spain, and they just warned Japan. Get your assets in line with your currency value, or we're coming in to devalue your currency. It's a global effort. In a way, I'm glad it's over. In another way, it turns me inside out to see all this taking place. It is a global effort of getting all nations on the same playing field. For decades, nations have been printing funny money, which means they have been printing worthless paper. And they do, including the United States of America, and they do not have assets to back it. This one world system that's made up of these three things that I mentioned, this one world system understands that if a few nations get out of line, that it can bring down the whole world economy. Nations like Greece and Spain and Portugal and America and Cyprus and Japan. And because of this effort, the moving, the shifting, come on, move with us, move with us. This has catapulted the world from a debt-based management to an asset-based management. You go from hearing about national debt to national assets. All of a sudden in America, they have removed all drilling problems. They're now saying drill, everybody drill, go for the gas, go for the oil, go. We hear terms like stimulus package, fiscal cliff, sequestering. Seems like there's a new thing we have to learn about every 6 weeks. You know what it is? It's the barking dogs of Basel III on the hills of America. You have printed your funny money long enough. You have got to get assets to back up your currency. That's happening right before your eyes. America has hundreds of millions of Iraqi dollars in their U.S. Treasury. Hundreds of millions, maybe billions. Now, they learned to do this from George Bush Sr. in the Kuwaiti War, Desert Storm. When Saddam invaded, the currency went to nothing. America invaded, drove Saddam back, took all of the worthless Kuwaiti dinar back to Washington with them. Then when the Kuwaiti dinar was revalued at $9 to start with, and then it settled back down to $3.42 where it is today, then the Desert Storm War was paid for, and much was placed against our national debt. George W. Bush learned this in Iraq. When they left, they took with them hundreds and hundreds of millions and billions of worthless Iraqi dinar. Because when war comes, the currency of the nation is worthless. They took paper and they stored it in the U.S. Treasury. Now, when the Iraqi dinar is revalued to beginning with $3.42, the debt of the war in Iraq will be paid for, and much more for assets against the national debt. Set up. The IMF, led by Christine Lagarde, she fascinates me. This one woman's controlling the money of the world. Will help, if possible, to fund the difference between currency value and asset value. And then very subtly, that space in between is where they're buying up the nations. And it will be no problem to have a one world government and a one world currency. You say, what does that have to do with me? This is what it has to do with you. I want to take you from a debt-based value to an asset-based value. I want you to move. I want you to start moving. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, led by Christine Lagarde. Look her up, read about it. Will help, if possible, to fund the difference between currency value and asset value. I think they just did this in Brazil. I think they just gave $27 billion to Brazil, and all the Veras and the Norrises stole it. No, not the Veras and the Norrises, but the politicians of Brazil. And so Christine said, we're watching you, Brazil. And all of a sudden, last week, the real, the currency of Brazil, began to drop substantially. Control. There's more gold being moved worldwide now than any time in history. The moving of the gold. China has the gold. But you know who has the most gold? The Queen of England. She was the biggest caretaker of gold in the world. This was left over from the Marshall Plan of a world war. Suddenly Great Britain, this is in the news, suddenly Great Britain is threatened to leave the European Union. And Christine says, no, you're not. Christine beat the Queen. But we do need most of your gold. And suddenly the Queen is taken to the hospital with conditions diagnosed as a very nervous stomach. They discovered in all of their movings, everybody's moving, the nations are moving, the currencies are moving, the central banks are moving. They noticed that in the Vatican Bank, there was enough money to support every human being on the face of the earth. Now you think about it. Quadrillion, trillion. Numbers that we cannot even imagine. There was so much money in the Vatican Bank. All of a sudden the Pope resigns. Hadn't done that in 600 years. He had to be moved because he wasn't moving fast enough. Couldn't wait for him to die. We need your money. And so you have the woman riding on the beast of Revelation 13. It's all around you. But it's in this service. Do you know how many assets you have? But you stay so far in debt because of your inferior feelings and your feelings of failure and your feelings of inadequacy and your feelings of just your feelings, your mindset. Your mindset. You got a mindset of failure. Can y'all hear me back there? You got a mindset of failure. You are just programmed for failure. In your home, you were programmed for failure. Your parents don't ever say, little girl, why can't you be as smart as your brother? Have you lost your mind? It ain't the kid's fault that inherit these inadequate feelings. It's what they hear the mama say and what they hear the daddy say. Why can't you be smart like your sister? Because he ain't your sister. He's not his sister. He is who he is. He has his own identity. He's got his own dreams. You remember the scene in the movie Giant when the man wanted the boy to be a horse rancher and a cattle rancher, and the boy was going around with stethoscopes in his ears. He wasn't about to be a rancher. He was born to be a doctor. Now, if you are an astute parent, you will look at things in your kids, these valuable things in your kids, and you will not try to program them a different way. You will just let them develop. But you need to take them to Jared and Carissa. You need to take them to Teen Destiny and to the Brooks. You need to take them to a pastor that has got blaring eyes and a booming voice like a trombone that will constantly tell you kids, stay in the church, stay in the church, stay in the church, where we're turning your debts into assets. What in the world do you want to be a drug dealer for? What's wrong with you? Well, what in the world do you want to have a baby before you're married? Don't you know that'll make you an instant adult? That's the way with barefoot and pigtails and everything you're supposed to enjoy until you're 30 years old. What in the world is wrong with you? That's the kind of preaching you need to hear all the time. The homosexual lifestyle is not a choice. It's a sin. It's not just a sin, it's an abomination. All you got to do is read Romans 1. You let the kids develop into their assets. And then they're comfortable with who they are. They're comfortable. Spencer thought he wanted to be a doctor. He went just a few months and said, Doc ain't for me. He migrated to where he was supposed to be, in business and in finance. And now he's getting his master's degree in that. Thank you, Mark Estes, for the gentle nudges and the touches and a wonderful, wonderful mom that's been patient in the process. You're valuable. You know that? You're very valuable. You're very valuable. All of a sudden there is an explosion in the text you read today, Matthew 15 and 21. I don't care what you need. What are you talking about? You have a daughter, and a daughter has a devil, and you've come to me to see if I would cast the devil out of your daughter. Look, lady, I don't owe you anything. There is no more cruel address in the Bible than the most tender story in the Bible, and that's Mark 6 and 9, and also Matthew 15 through 28. Listen, I don't owe you anything. This is not a debt-driven society and privilege. I only deal with assets. I have come to seek and to save that which is lost and to turn them into mighty, mighty apostles and world changers. You're a dog. That's what you are. You're a dog. And your mama was a dog and your daddy was a dog. You understand what he was saying when he called her a dog? That means he's from a whole line of canine families. This is not a debt-based privilege. You are a Syrophoenician. You are a half-breed. You are a mixed blood. I have come to give the children bread. Now this woman is stunned. She's just totally stunned. And she's stunned. And she said, I got to gather my thoughts now. I have found my answer. I just don't know how to phrase my question. I got to think. I got to think. Think. And she looked up into those big black eyes, and she fell at his feet, and she began to worship. And she looked up and says, "You're right. I am a dog, but even the dogs can eat of the even the dogs can eat of the crumbs." You know what Jesus said? "Woman, great is thy faith." Now we have some assets. We can build on this. You go home, your daughter is going to be all right. Now, what you must remember about this was rushing the dispensation. This one little half-breed woman with her desperate desire to find value within her and her daughter pushed the Nazarene to bring the Gentile dispensation long before it was supposed to be. I'm building on your faith, lady. For years, you've printed up funny money faith. Faith that affects your petition, but it doesn't affect your worship. The Lord's Prayer is 50% petition, 50% worship. But we've got it all backwards. We treat God like a big Santa Claus in the sky. We're always ordering him around. Why don't we see your miracles? Why don't we see your miracles? You want my miracles? You want me to come sliding down a rainbow? You want me to brush the stardust off of my feet and perform you a miracle? I'm not a God like that. I want to know what your assets are. You have been offering to me printed money faith that has no assets to back it up. You come to church when you want to. You take advantage of every silly American holiday that you can find. You don't go to prayer rooms. You don't raise your hands. I was watching over there with Chris acting like a fool, and you wasn't even looking up. Your hands get about this high. You patty cake for Jesus. Are you talking about funny money faith here? You printed up a lot of stuff about faith, but you don't know one licking thing about it. You've got to hear what I'm saying. I've come to tell you today that your day's over for that. You're going to have to increase your currency value to match your assets. You're going to have to have a global currency reset. You're going to have to refresh. That's what revival means, refresh. I can hear Karen's in my ear every time I get on my computer. Refresh. I'll have 15 responses. I refresh, and I got 30. Yay! Refresh. Reset. And brother, we've got an international monetary fund that's second to none. But we can't purchase it with our funny money faith. Move. He's not a big Santa Claus in the sky. He's not going to slide down rainbows to show you he can do it. Because we're still asking when we should be waiting. The value of your currency depends upon the abundance of your assets. Your great treasures will be mined from your own gold mine. He rushed a dispensation for this woman when she wasn't even supposed to be touched this early. He can do the same thing for you. Paul said, I preach a certified gospel. The gospel that I preach unto you is not of man, but it's of God. And I certify it. In other words, there's enough money in God's International Monetary Fund to back up anything that he's ever promised you if you can just get your assets right. I certify you, brother, that the gospel is built upon God and not upon man. I preach to you a certified gospel. There's plenty of money in the bank to back up the check that you write if you will just understand who the banker is. It's not your ingenuity. It's not your education. It's not your ability for a portfolio. Oh no, it comes from the certified gospel. His checks don't bounce. His checks aren't hot checks. That comes from another bank. He has a double signature check. He signed it many Easters ago. Now you have to sign it. Now you have to sign it. Now you have to sign it. Get out of those seats and sign it. Move with Chris. Move with Jerry. Move. Get involved with Maylene. Get involved in the Learning Center. Get involved in the charter school. Get involved. Reset. Remember when you were your most spiritual. Why don't you refresh so you can get there again? Be my hands. Be my feet. I don't know how it all turned out. I don't know why it all turned out. I don't know why. I just absolutely.
Oh, Jesus. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I'm willing, Lord. I'm willing.
Gonna move. Revalue. 168 nations will be revalued before it's over. But there's 15 that's going to be revalued right now. Including Iraq, Vietnam. It's called a basket. And there were 12 baskets left over. When are you going to move? Why don't you just... Why don't you just start moving? Reset. Refresh. Right now. Sign the check. What do you want? And now you be sure before you say what you want that you've got an asset base and not a debt base.
Yes.
Ah. From the International Monetary Fund, a withdrawal, that I got enough assets to back it up.